This is Alaska. Breathtakingly beautiful, rugged, unforgiving, and isolated. In tiny villages dotted across this vast land, Alaska is home to thousands of people whose ancestors trace back thousands of years.
We have Americans that live in remote locations as a matter of heritage, and we have a unique situation in our state where they live in distant places, and the lifeline is aviation.
When Alaskans living in these communities need to travel somewhere, when they need staple foods, supplies, mail, and medical care, the airport is their main portal to the transportation system.
In rural America, you have roads, you have access to services. You can get in your car and you can drive to a store, even if it takes a few hours. There's simply not that option here.
Getting to many of Alaska's remote communities differs from the contiguous states because there are no roads to drive. In fact, 82% of Alaska's communities are not connected by road. It takes much more than reliable aircraft and skilled pilots to reach rural Alaskans. It takes airports that stand up to Alaskan conditions. The rugged and unspoiled magnificence that makes this a national treasure also presents many challenges to building and maintaining the aviation lifeline.
Call the visibility now.
Remote locations and severe weather add to the costs, making airport construction in Alaska more challenging than many other places in the world. But weather is only the beginning of the story. In some cases, permafrost can add over $1 million to the cost for insulation to keep the ground frozen. Lack of suitable construction materials often requires them to be barged or flown in. Earthquakes and river embankment erosion requiring runway protection barriers and other natural disasters contribute to higher costs for constructing these airports.
All the ground around us is mainly tundra with frozen silt under it, so it's not a good source for gravel or any bar or any material you need for building runways or maintaining them. So everything has to be barged in from the closest community with rock.
A cubic yard of surfacing gravel would normally cost about $22 delivered to a typical lower 48 airport. The same gravel could cost up to $400 in rural Alaska. Gravel is a significant portion of all materials required to construct airports, and when thousands of cubic yards are required, the costs add up quickly.
The biggest challenge of building, construction, maintaining airports in Alaska would be logistics. It costs more to get to remote areas. The materials cost more. Sometimes they're not readily available. The equipment itself to construct the project may have to be brought in by barge. Sometimes it's flown in.
In many cases, it's like having to secure equipment, crews, and material in Ohio for a project in New York without any roads to get them there. Because of Alaska's extreme climate, construction seasons are short, just 3 to 4 months each year. Seasonal shutdowns compounded by persistent frozen ground, as well as environmental restrictions and other logistical obstacles, mean projects frequently take multiple years to complete.
It's very remote, so nothing's easy. For instance, in Fairbanks, some of our airports are 350 miles from the nearest base. If we have an electrical issue on the airport, we'll end up flying an electrician out just for the day.
It's a significant Alaska-sized investment to sustain the aviation lifeline. The FAA and the State of Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities continue to confront the challenges of meeting federal mandates to provide safe, reliable, and efficient air transportation in some of the most challenging areas in the country.
So when we build airports, we want to tie it to our mission. And we're providing safe and efficient transportation in the air domain to Alaskans and to the people of our country.
The logistics to build airports in rural Alaska can be orders of magnitude greater than in the lower 48 states. Costs of individual projects are high for relatively small communities. But given the size, climate, and terrain of Alaska, airports are the most economically responsible way to ensure reliable, year-round access for America's most remote residents. A recent study showed the cost of building a remote Alaska airport with a 3,300-foot gravel runway, runway lights, taxiway, and safety areas was equivalent to the average construction cost of 1 mile of 4-lane interstate highway. Recent studies show the cost to construct a road network in rural Alaska would be more than 3 times the cost of building an airport system, and the cost to maintain a road network would be more than 5 times as much. Most of these airports are constructed with gravel surfaces with a 3,300-foot runway and a small apron. There are no terminals, heated waiting areas, or other amenities typically found in the lower 48. In many cases, these improvements are the first major transportation investment in these villages in a decade or more.
It's extremely important that those runways are functional, that they're well maintained, that they're the adequate length to be able to get the aircraft in there for us to be able to provide emergency care. If that weren't the case, where we didn't have adequate runways to accommodate this aircraft, those people may very well go without health care.
Essentially not having these airports, not having them built and maintained well enough to get, the services they need, it cuts off that lifeline.
So we know that our airports are simply essential to our way of life here in Alaska. We do not use the lifeline term lightly. And we know that we have to continue investing in our airport system. As stewards of the public trust, we have to do this efficiently and effectively and in partnership with our FAA friends. So that's what Alaskans will see in the coming years.
By investing in Alaska's rural airports, we help communities stay connected, preserving their lifeline.